I hope they're arrested. I just love... Anyway, the lines are open for you. What are we going to do, I hear you ask in unison, and I'll answer you in unison too. Of course, we have three major parties running to be the government of this province, Conservative, Liberal and NDP. But what about the others? There are other parties, and they're working very hard, and they're raising money, and they want your vote. Are they serious? Yes, they would say they are. Well, they don't often get much attention or publicity. Television, radio, newspaper, magazines. We decided on Michael Coren Live to change that. We have the smaller parties with us tonight. 7 different people, 4 in the first half of the show, 3 in the second half. Ask them, what do they stand for? Are they serious? Do they think they can get elected? Why should you vote for them? Where are they standing? 416-203-0302-905-332-3131. My panel. On my far left, from the Green Party of Ontario, is Frank de Jong. Frank, welcome to you.
Welcome.
Now, is part of being in the Green not wearing a tie? Is that part of the...
Part of this show, you not wearing a tie?
Exactly. Well done. You're going to have fun here tonight. I like it. On my close left, very smart indeed. And he was at... You were on about, what, 2 weeks ago, talking about Salman Rushdie?
Salman Rushdie and cheese.
It's Paul McKeever for the Ontario Freedom Party. Welcome to you. On my close right from the Ontario Libertarian Party, similar to the Ontario Freedom Party, is Sam Applebaum. Welcome to you. And on my far right, which is probably an uncomfortable position for him to be, is Hassan Husseini from the Communist Party of Ontario.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Let's begin with you, Communist Party of Ontario. You've done a lot of TV, I assume, in Moscow and Beijing. They trained you to do TV, did they?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all. This is my first TV appearance on such a show.
Oh,
so,
really?
but
I'm amazed.
Yes.
Surely communism, it's a bit like the hula hoop. Well, that's coming back, actually, but it's a bit like the Beatles.
You're borrowing this from Mike Harris, aren't you?
It's a bit out of date, isn't it, communism?
Not really, no. Not at all, actually. If you look you look at the European countries right now, those who tried capitalism, you see that a lot of the communist parties are winning in the polls, and not only in the polls, but they're winning in the elections, and they're forming governments in other European countries. In France, in Italy, they're part of coalition governments. In India, the Communist Party of India, they have control through parliamentary means of 3 or 4 states. I'm not exactly sure. So no, not at all. And even in Ontario here, what we're seeing by knocking on doors or going meeting people and talking to people is that they're quite open to the alternatives that we're putting forward, and quite open-minded to hearing what the Communist Party of Canada, Ontario is saying. So not at all, it's not outdated.
Right. So you think on the morning of June the 4th we'll wake up and we could have a communist government in Ontario?
No, because we're not running 103 candidates, but you will see people who will vote for us on June 3rd, but at the same time, after June 3rd, you'll see a lot of more people who are going to take the message that we have put during the election and fight for it every day of the year, and not only during the elections. And that's what we call the people's alternative.
Right.
That is the alternative to the new conservative or the new liberal agenda.
Right.
That's what we have.
How many candidates are you running?
We have 4 candidates in this election.
4?
4.
So you won't be able to form a government, or even...
No.
You couldn't even get party.
I think 12 you need.
Anyway, more than you're going to get.
Exactly.
So.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to set up gulags or camps for people?
No, that's a good shot. I knew you were going to do something like this.
No, I'm just trying to think of your history.
No, well, if you think that we're going to set gulags, you'll think that Mike Harris also would be setting a regime such as the Pinochet regime in Chile, or the Batista, or the Somozas, which actually, come to think of it, they are getting close to that. So they are a lot closer to setting a fascist government than we are, doing anything.
In what way? Not that I'm here to defend Mike Harris, far from it. But in what way is it a fascist government?
Well, they're not a fascist government. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they are, and a lot of people would argue that. I don't think they're a fascist government because we don't want to bring down what fascism has done in Europe.
Right.
So we're not going to say that. But I'm saying that they are certainly inching closer. And fascist governments, one of their characters was to attack working people, to attack women, to attack gays, lesbians, bisexuals, to attack people who are different from them, to attack those that are different from the mainstream. And the Tories are doing exactly that. And
in what way is Mike Harris declaring war on the bisexual population?
He's declaring, Mike Harris and the Tories have been declaring war, have declared war, and have unleashed the war on the people of this province. Okay? All the people who...
Particularly the bisexuals? Or?
No, not necessarily the bisexuals. Right. All the people who are different, okay, from the agenda that Mike Harris wants to implement.
But they're around 45% of the polls.
Well,
there's a lot of people who own corporations, apparently.
No, not only that. There is a lot of money behind the Tories, and there is a lot of campaigning, and there is a lot of brainwashing, to tell you the truth, that is happening. And, you know, I mean, the money that they have, the ads that they have, certainly reaches to a lot of people. And the promises, look what happened.
There's no money behind the Liberal Party.
Well, there is, certainly.
So why haven't they done better than they are doing?
Well, this is politics, you know. To a certain extent, I always say that polls are, you know, to a great extent are scientific, but in many ways they are not a reflection or a true reflection of the popular opinion, but they manufacture in many ways.
One last question. If you do, on your platform, I assume it's a fairly orthodox socialistic program, so it will be to the left of the NDP, socializing, nationalizing, that sort of thing, workers'
Not
control.
at this point, no.
Oh.
No, actually, I should give you a copy of the platform. No, certainly,
that's okay. just very briefly, give us your platform.
Well, our aim, certainly, in the long term, yes, absolutely, the establishment of a socialist Canada and a socialist Ontario. Right. But what we're putting forward right now as a people's alternative is to unite the broadest possible sections of the people, and to fight back against what is happening at the present time in terms of slash, gut, and burn policies of the new liberals, including the Chrétiens and maybe the McGuinty's if they win the election. Our platform is putting people before profits. Our platform is to, number one, legislate a shorter work week with no less than take-home pay, which is quite affordable. Increase the minimum wage
agree with you on that.
To much higher than what the other, well, much higher than what the NDP is, $12.
Right on.
Number three is to ban overtime, and at the same time
ban overtime.
Ban overtime, compulsory overtime. Which
you'll be popular with the unions.
Well, what's happening is that at the present time, a lot of people are working a lot of hours, and others are not working at all. And this is you know, on the question of housing and homelessness and funding for these things. The government is getting out of all that. The Conservative government.
And what compulsory vacations in North Korea?
No.
Okay, got to move on.
This is another cheap shot, but go ahead. You know.
Hey, that's me, cheap shot. Sam Applebaum, Ontario Libertarian Party. What is libertarianism?
What libertarianism is about a different paradigm than what we have now. The paradigm we have now is that government is in charge and has the right to control people's lives, to tax people for that purpose, to give away the money that they earned. And what libertarianism is about limited government. Government, for libertarians, has no right to go beyond defensive purposes. So that is, government has a right to prevent somebody from physically harming you and from stealing your property, and has a right to put in place mechanisms for that, such as police, courts, military, for external threats to your physical well-being. But what libertarians believe is that government has no right to use aggressive force against people. So in other words, as an example, healthcare. In order to provide government-funded health care, government has to confiscate money from people through taxation without their individual consent, and then redistribute that in a way that is seen fit by government. Right. We don't consider voting as a consent, because as an individual, your vote really makes no difference.
What about if people vote you into power? Is that not then effective and you won't bother to take your seat?
We work within the current existing system, and obviously if we were ever to win an election, we would take our seat. But the point is that if we were ever to win an election, there would obviously be a new paradigm out there. In other words, people would have accepted the message that we're presenting and would be ready for that type of government. So what I foresee in the future is, or what I hope happens in the future, is that we have a paradigm where we have 4, 5, 6 different libertarian type parties, all believing substantially the same thing, but just differing in the application of the basic principles.
How many candidates are you putting up?
We have 7 candidates in this election.
So you're twice as powerful as the Communist Party then?
In the sense of candidates, yes, but probably in the sense of outcome will be no more powerful than they are.
Legalization of drugs, for example. Yes. Are you for that?
Again, what libertarians believe is that people should be free to live their lives. So as long as you're not harming somebody else through what you're doing, then it's up to you.
So if you want to crack, cocaine, morphine, it's entirely up to you?
If you want to harm yourself, we're not going to stop you. And I'm not saying that's right.
No.
And I'm not saying that that many of us wouldn't try to convince you not to do that yourself.
The state shouldn't intervene to do
Correct.
anything about it.
That's correct.
What about, say, child pornography?
Okay, now that, in that area, it's probably legitimate for the state to intervene because children can't consent to this. There has to be an age, and probably has to be set arbitrarily where you can consent to something, but a child has no ability to consent to
adult
something.
pornography, absolutely anything.
Adult pornography, people can do what they want. If they do it voluntarily, then that's their business.
Prostitution, doesn't matter, whatever you want.
Again, prostitution in the streets is one matter. Right now we deal with public roadways, so to say that somebody can do that in the streets, probably not. Okay. But if they want to do it between adults, privately consenting adults, we have no problem with that.
Let me ask you a question that you mentioned the confiscation of money through taxation. Let's say that a man has inherited from his father $20 million. He hasn't done a day's work for it, but he reaches 19, dad dies, he gets 20 million bucks and he owns a huge factory and he makes more and more money off the excess labor, the profit margin of the workers working for him. Those workers and the rest of the country have to take any of it back simply by the luck of inheritance. That man can keep every penny of it?
Well, what we believe as libertarians is that the man's father who gave him this money had the right to dispose of his money up to the time he died, and that was his wish, was to hand it over to his son, so therefore his son has the entitlement to it. Just as his father could have handed it out to a charity or handed it out to all sorts of people.
Being born with power, being born without power, to you, it's no difference.
It's a question of how you define power. We don't define power by money.
Okay, being a multimillionaire or being impoverished, I'd say one is powerful, one isn't.
Well, no, I don't agree with you, because power is not derived solely from money. The fact that somebody has a millionaire, that somebody has a lot of money, does not give that person power in the political sense. Now, what we have in existence today is a system whereby somebody with all that money can in fact wield power through control of the political system and use that wealth to increase that person's wealth through some government manipulation or other. That's the current system. Okay. But under a libertarian system, a person with a lot of money would not have the ability to influence government to do anything for him, since government will not be doing anything for him.
All right. When we come back, a lot of people are calling in. We'll get to the Ontario Freedom Party and also to the Green Party of Ontario, and then that's only half of it, literally, because then we have the others later on in the show. A lot of calls. Mark Lloyd, Almondo, Tony, the rest of you. With you in a couple of seconds on Michael Coren Live. Welcome back to Michael Coren Live. Tonight we're looking at not the small candidates, because there are rather big people, but the candidates who represent the smaller parties outside Tory, Liberal, NDP. Many would argue that, particularly Tory and Liberal, there's not a lot to choose between them. There is a broader range of parties, and one of the wonderful things about democracy is it's great fun if you host a TV show because you fill the shows with all the stuff, but also there is a great many people you can vote for. Maybe they won't win, but you can still vote for them and show your support. Now, let's go to the two people on my left and begin with Paul McKeever from the Ontario Freedom Party. Now, you're a libertarian too.
Of sorts, you could say so.
How do you differ from my comrade on the right here?
Primarily, I think organizationally. In terms of issues and policies, probably we're quite similar.
Right. So, least government possible. Basic government to protect people, foreign defense, apart from that, not much?
Yeah, I don't know if minimizing government is necessarily the stated goal. I think it's more to give people maximum choice, to make choices in their health issues, their education issues, to redirect those funds that they might use for education, for health, in the way that they might see fit. Right. And to allow some competition so that they have choices that are affordable, efficient, that are responsive, and quality. Right now we have a system where the government is managing and making decisions based on political criterion instead of allowing people to compete.
So that sounds eminently reasonable, and certainly in terms of education I can agree with you. I believe in a voucher system. I believe that we shouldn't have to go to a public system. But I've met libertarians, and there are degrees of them, but I've met libertarians who have said to me, you can sell babies if the market demands it. It is appropriate, acceptable at least, to sell babies. Now, that's quite a well-known lawyer. I'm not going to name who this woman is, but she's known as a libertarian writer, and she made this argument, which I mean, is that mainstream libertarianism?
I wouldn't say it is. That sounds quite bizarre. In terms of our platform in this election, for example, we are focusing, just as the major parties are, on the three issues that appear to be of most interest to the public, and that is health, education, and taxation. The way we differ in taxation, primarily from all of the other three parties, is that we are in favor of a flat tax, because right now we have situations where I'm an employment lawyer. I get people coming into me all the time and saying, well, I had this job. There was no sense in working more than 40 hours a week, because if I did, my rate of tax went up.
Sure.
So I ended up not making any money for all the extra work I put in. We just think that's wrong.
Yeah.
So Freedom Party and Freedom Party candidates would be in favor of laws, tax laws that imposed a flat rate of taxation. So if you want to work 60 hours, you'll get that extra 50% of your wages. You won't have to knock it down to 30.
Okay. How many people do you have running?
We have 14 this election. That's the most we've had running, but we're growing quite quickly.
Quite a few. Censorship. Would there be any censorship at all?
I guess you have to define
Could anything be published?
I would say so. In terms of expression, we believe, it's one of our core beliefs, that expression, provided it's not, for example, a conspiracy to harm people, is perfectly okay. That you know, if you want to say something, we have talked in the past about Salman Rushdie's book, and if the wording is for one person blasphemous, but for another person informative, we still think that that should be something that the public should have access to. We don't believe that government should be making choices about what we should read.
What about if an organization was issuing literature that called people repugnant racist names? Would that be acceptable?
Well, of course, it's repugnant to us as well.
Of course, yeah.
However, if you think about what Freedom Party stands for, we simply stand for the idea that the government shouldn't be able to tell you what to think, what to believe in, and what to say. And, you know, frankly, there's no government action that could really improve people's beliefs. If they're going to hate people, they're going to hate people. We certainly would not want to encourage that. In fact, we think racism is repugnant to freedom, and we think that government should not be involved in the racism business.
Right, okay. Frank de Jong, Green Party of Ontario. Let me, and I don't mean to be facetious, but is the beard, I've always thought of people who are into ecology being bearded, and generally my experience has been they are.
You're right on.
Tell us about the Green Party. The Green Party is well known in Europe, particularly Germany, other Northern European states, extremely successful. Hasn't really made it in the Anglo-Saxon countries yet. What do you stand for?
Well, I suppose the fundamental premise is that the Earth is finite and humans are consuming way more than our fair share. Our ecological footprint is a lot heavier than it should be. And if the planet does not, if the humans do not switch to green technologies, we'll be toast in a generation or so.
Just 20 years or so then?
Well, we hear David Suzuki talk about the turnaround decade, this kind of thing. There's, you know, everyone knows that humans are abusing the planet, and that's where all life depends. That's where the economy depends on all jobs, all wealth comes from nature. If we're not, if we don't change our choice of technology and our lifestyles, it's goodbye, Charlie.
Right. Now, I'm actually fairly sympathetic in many ways. I have a lot of problems with technology and what we think of as progress. Suzuki, I mean, the guy's a bit of a nut. I mean, didn't he say that humans were a parasite, and if humans disappeared, the world would survive, but if one little insect disappeared, the world would come to an end?
I don't recall that of David Suzuki saying
actually,
that.
I read it. I actually read it out because I have the quotation at home.
I suppose the point is, if humans did disappear, the Earth would go on. Obviously, the Earth has been here way before we have. It's 3.5 billion years old, whatever.
Disagree on that, but carry
on. My mother disagrees as well.
Yeah, she sounds a good woman. And I bet she doesn't have a beard.
The point is, if we value human society and if we value our longevity on the planet, we better take some serious looks at the nature of our society.
Where do you stand? No, and I agree, things like recycling and at a much more profound level than we do now, and treating the planet with some respect, areas of pollution. I mean, the idea that my kids will not be able to go out on certain days because of the pollution level, I think is an obscenity. But issues such as population control, for example, I do meet people in the Green Movement who are very strict on this, even talking about a one-child policy. Do you have any stance there?
No. If you look at that, it's consumption level times population equals ecological impact. So we have a choice. Either we reduce our population and leave our consumption level high to reduce our impact, or we leave our population high and reduce our consumption level to reduce our ecological impact. Greens are very strong believers in democratic processes, and we don't advocate. The only way you can do, we chatted before the show, we need deference, and we need cooperation, and we need people to think beyond themselves to the needs of the planet, and we have to dovetail our own needs. What Greens often say is the needs of the planet are the needs of the people. The Earth can supply our needs, but not necessarily our wants.
Right.
So, no, we're not into draconian methods. It has to be through education, through well-being.
So a country like India, with a population of, what, 800 million, could be doing less damage to the planet than a country like France with only 60-odd million because of its consumption.
They say one Canadian is as hard on the planet as a whole Chinese village, this kind of thing, because of the choice of technology or the default lack of technology that they have there. If every person in China and India had a fridge and a stove, the planet would be toast.
Just very quickly, the average family, how would the life of an average Canadian family change? And how many candidates are you putting up?
We have 58 candidates.
58, that's extensive. And as I say, in Europe, the Green parties are taken very seriously, particularly in Germany.
Because they have proportional representation.
Yes, which I support entirely. If ever you had enough influence to form a coalition or be in power, how would the life of the average Canadian family change?
Our basic economic program we would try to enact, and that is the green tax shift. Right now, people are taxed heavily, corporations are taxed heavily, and resources, basic resources like trees, lumber, aggregates, minerals, water, air, is not taxed heavily. So we would like to see a tax shift, a revenue neutral shift. It's not a tax grab. We would like to see the taxes taken off of people, a la Mike Harris, and the taxes taken off of corporations, and shift the tax burden onto resources. This has a twofold result, and that is it makes...
Trees will pay tax? What do you mean?
When you cut down a tree, you pay a stumpage fee, and that should be much higher.
Right.
So the point is right now, people are taxed heavily, people are expensive to hire. We talked about the collateral costs of hiring someone are very high, so companies would much sooner waste resources than hire more people.
Right.
So Greens talk about value-added production, community economic development, making sure, we talk again about the 4-day work week, sharing the amount of work that is available. And so corporations travel, they seek the path of least tax resistance. They will move to where taxation is the lowest. So right now, people are taxed heavily, so they shy away from hiring people, and they squander resources. We'd like to see the opposite. So people are cheaper and resources are expensive.
We have to go to a break. There are lots of calls there. We'll get straight back to you. No more of me just talking to these guys. Ages and ages, Mark and Lloyd and Lamondo and Tony and Ken and the rest of you. And we come back on Michael Coren Live on CTS.
Their healthcare dollar to the services of their choice.
Okay, Hassan?
Oh, the best choice that I can give him is to stop attacking working people, stop attacking the people who are building the province, reverse the legislation that he's implemented in the past 4 years, starting with Bill 26, which has given this government the power to close hospitals, to amalgamate municipalities, to attack the environment and increase pollution while paying lip service to it, attacking working people, attacking unions, attacking teachers. All these things, all the legislation have to be rescinded, but at the same time we should, the opposite of what my colleague said there, that we must actually introduce taxes and on the corporations, those who are not paying their fair share of taxes. So the tax system must be changed to eliminate the taxes on those who are making $40,000 and increase the taxes on those who are at the top, who are making the big bucks and not paying their fair share of taxes. Shorter work week, that is definitely it, and fund and refund and invest more money into affordable housing. This is a need and necessity, especially in the area that we're living in, Toronto and the GTA.
You might get my vote. Sam Applebaum.
Start the process of getting government out of almost everything. Start dismantling the welfare state. The details of it are not that important. Just start doing it and start eliminating all the taxes that go to pay for the welfare state.
You won't get my vote. Frank de Jong.
A phase out of nuclear power, start looking into phase out of fossil fuels, go to organic agriculture, invert the transportation hierarchy, start looking at pedestrians at the top, then bicycles, then clean fuel bus, clean fuel train, and put the automobile at the bottom. In healthcare, start looking at prevention of healthcare problems, looking at chemicals in the environment. 1 in 3 people get cancer in Ontario now, so directly related to pesticides, and implement green economics, which means the tax shift away from people and onto resources.
This is amazing. I'm favouring the Green Party and the Communist Party. Let's go to Lloyd on line 3. Hi there, Lloyd.
How do you do?
Hi.
Good luck to everyone there. But my biggest concern is basically the small guy who has a lot of capability of running a business but doesn't have the funds to do it. And I was wondering if there was ever going to be any funds available instead of having a card to go to the bank and do all this stuff about, you know, getting a loans and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, I think, well, actually, that's probably more of a federal issue than a provincial one, but I guess it would be allow some competition in banking. Right now we have 4 banks, and if you think there's competition there, just look at the funding, for example, to the Liberals and PCs in this election.
That sounds good.
The funding for the Liberals from all of the major banks was $8,000, and for the PCs from all of the major banks was $4,000. Perhaps they talk to one another. I'm not sure.
Okay, let's go to Almondo on line 2. Hi, Almondo.
Hi, Marco.
Hello.
How are you doing? Okay, my comment is to the leader of the Communist Party. Yep. I believe that communism is nice only in books, but it doesn't work in real life. Second, I would like to add that communism is a disease, and it's the system where people are discriminated the most.
Right. Hold on. Communism is a disease?
Well, absolutely not. Well, the question is that if you ask the people who lived through the Pinochet years and the Somoza and the Batista years and all the dictators who are capitalists and have been supported by our governments. No, we run on our record in Canada.
And Bulgaria
we run
Vietnam.
on. Well, I'm not representative of the Albanian or the Vietnamese, but I'm a Canadian communist and I'm communist from Ontario. We run on our record, and our record is we fought for health care. We've been around for 78 years, and you must go back to the history books to see the contributions of the Communist Party of Canada to all these things. Absolutely massive, and you may be laughing about it, but
no, I'm smiling gently.
Okay. The question is, Michael, is that the fact that we have made quite a contribution and to the welfare system, and also to bettering the lives of working people in this province and this country.
I'll be talking to 1 second because I have to break. We'll be back in a moment. 416-203-0302, 905-332-31. Michael Coren live on CTS with more of your questions. I promise you. Back in a moment.